My beloved brothers and sisters, today I want to remind you of something powerful, something that has the ability to transform your life and elevate your connection with your Lord. In a world that is constantly pulling you in all directions, calling you to compete, compare, speak and show off, take a moment, step back and remind yourself, focus only on yourself and stay silent. You see, many of us spend our time watching others, talking about others, measuring our worth by someone else's success or failure. But that's not your purpose. You were not created to monitor other people's lives. You were created to worship your Lord, to grow, to purify your heart, and to improve your character. That is your lane. Stay in it, protect it. When you begin focusing on yourself, your heart, your prayers, your discipline, you start to see the real change, the kind of change that brings peace, the kind that cannot be faked. Because true strength lies in silence, not the silence of weakness, but the silence of strength. The silence of someone who is working in private, making dua in the last third of the night, improving themselves when no one else is watching. Don't worry about who sees your progress. Don't wait for validation from people who don't even understand your struggle. Stay silent and let your growth speak when the time is right. Allah sees your effort. He knows your sincerity. And what He has prepared for you is far greater than anything you could prove to the people. My dear brothers and sisters, the greatest victories happen quietly. The battles of the soul, the struggles against sin, the tears shed in secret, those are not meant for applause. They are meant to bring you closer to your Creator. So focus only on yourself, mind your heart, watch your intentions, protect your tongue, and remember those who are closest to Allah often appear quiet, unbothered, even unnoticed. But their light is strong, their hearts are alive. Their silence is full of remembrance. Be among those people. Work on yourself. Stay silent and trust that Allah will raise you when the time is right. In life, many people fall into the trap of looking left and right, watching others, comparing their journey with someone else's, and measuring their success by the standards set by society. But the reality is, self-improvement does not begin with looking at what others are doing. It begins when you turn your gaze inward and start working on your own flaws, your own character, your own heart. The moment you shift your focus from external comparisons to internal reflection, that is when real growth begins. We live in a time where it's so easy to become distracted. You open your phone and within seconds, you see what someone else is achieving, how someone else looks, what someone else owns, and immediately your mind begins to compare. Why don't I have that? Why am I not where they are? What am I doing wrong? And these thoughts begin to create feelings of ungratefulness, jealousy, and self-doubt. But what you don't see is their struggle. What you don't know is the unseen effort, the tests they're facing behind the curtain of their public life. And even if their success is real, it has nothing to do with your path. Allah didn't create you to be like them. He created you to be you with your own unique tests, talents and timeline. This is why focusing on yourself is so powerful. Because when you do, you stop worrying about where others are going and you start asking, where am I going? You stop saying, why don't I have what they have? And start saying, how can I better use what Allah has already given me? The moment that shift happens, you take back your power. You begin to heal, to improve, to grow, not to compete with others, but to become the best version of the servant you are meant to be. Many people spend their whole lives chasing things to impress others' titles, wealth, beauty, recognition, and even when they achieve them, their hearts remain empty. Why? Because their efforts were not rooted in sincerity. Their goals were based on someone else's journey, someone else's approval. But a person who focuses on themselves, who looks at their flaws and says, I need to fix this, who seeks Allah's help in private, who struggles to leave sin for the sake of their Lord, that person is already on the path of real success. Self-improvement is not glamorous. It's not something people clap for. It happens in moments of solitude, in quiet prayers, in personal accountability. When you sit alone and admit, I need to change my habits, I've been neglecting my salah, my words have been hurting others, my ego is too big. That kind of honesty requires humility, and it requires courage, because it's easier to point fingers to say they're worse than me, or at least I'm not like them. But that mindset doesn't lead to growth, it just delays your own healing. This is why in Islam we are taught not to be obsessed with the faults of others. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Blessed is the one who is too busy with his own faults to notice the faults of others." There is so much wisdom in that. If you're constantly watching others, talking about others, measuring your worth based on others, then you will never have the time or energy to look within. But when you focus inward, you start to clean your heart, refine your character, and increase your sincerity. You begin to realize that your biggest enemy is not someone outside, but your own ego, your own desires, your own laziness. And when you face those inner enemies with the help of Allah, your journey becomes meaningful. You stop racing in the dunya and start preparing for the akhirah. You stop needing approval from people and start seeking the pleasure of your Lord. And that change, though subtle, is massive in the eyes of Allah. This is the beauty of focusing on yourself. It's not selfish, it's spiritual. Because when you are right within, everything else begins to fall into place. You become more patient with others, more sincere in your actions, more consistent in your worship. Your energy shifts, your vision becomes clear. You begin to live with purpose instead of just following the crowd. It's a quiet transformation, one that happens without applause, but it is noticed in the heavens. When you focus on yourself for the sake of Allah, when you purify your heart and strive to be better each day, even if no one sees it, Allah sees it, and that is enough. Silence is not always about the absence of speech. Sometimes it is the presence of strength, control, and deep understanding. When a person learns to stay silent, especially in moments where they could easily speak, defend, argue, or boast, it is a sign that they are mastering something much greater than their ego. Silence has a powerful effect on the soul. It helps protect your energy, and most importantly, it keeps your intentions pure. In a world where everyone is talking, sharing, reacting, and exposing their every move, silence becomes a rare and valuable trait. It is easy to announce your plans, to show your achievements, or to speak your mind at every opportunity. But the wise believer understands that not everything that can be said should be said. Not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every success needs to be shared. There is strength in remaining quiet, in preserving the sincerity of your deeds by keeping them between you and Allah. You see, when you constantly speak, you invite the attention and opinions of others. Some will support you, but others may envy you, misunderstand you, or even attempt to bring you down. But when you stay silent, you protect yourself from unnecessary noise. You protect your peace. You protect the purity of what you're doing, especially when it comes to acts done for the sake of Allah. When your efforts remain hidden, they are safe from the diseases of the heart, showing off, arrogance, and seeking praise from people. Even in moments of argument or criticism, silence can be more powerful than any words you could say. There are times when the best response is no response at all. Why? Because silence doesn't mean you are defeated. It means you are disciplined. You choose not to waste your energy in proving yourself to people who are not even looking for the truth. You trust that Allah knows your heart, your intention, your struggle, and that is enough. The one who argues for every little thing, who defends themselves in every situation, eventually loses their peace. But the one who chooses silence walks away with dignity and calm. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us the importance of guarding the tongue. He said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. That is not just a statement, it is a lifestyle. Imagine if before every word we said, we asked ourselves, is this beneficial? Is this pleasing to Allah? Is this necessary? So many of our problems, arguments, regrets and sins would be avoided if we simply chose silence at the right moment. When you protect your speech, you begin to notice the weight of words. Words can heal, but they can also hurt. They can uplift, but they can also destroy. And once they are spoken, they cannot be taken back. That's why silence is a shield. It keeps you from saying something you'll regret. It gives you time to reflect. And in that stillness, your heart becomes clearer, your mind becomes sharper, and your connection with Allah becomes stronger. Silence also allows space for action. Many people speak about what they plan to do, how they want to change, how they will become better, but they don't act. They make noise without movement. But the one who stays quiet, who makes their intentions sincere, who gets to work in silence, they are the ones who actually grow, because they are not doing it to be seen, they are doing it for something greater. They are doing it for Allah. There is also a sweetness in keeping your worship private. When you fast and no one knows, when you pray in the depths of the night and no one sees, when you help someone and say nothing about it, that is where sincerity lives. That is where your soul is purified. Because you know that no one owes you thanks. No one needs to clap for you. You are seeking reward from the one who sees even the smallest good deed. And so, by choosing silence in your journey, you are not only protecting your energy from being wasted on the wrong things, you are also preserving your intention from being corrupted. You are doing things for the right reason. You are not seeking to impress. You are not racing with others. You are walking at your own pace, in your own lane, with your eyes fixed on your own goal, the pleasure of Allah. Silence teaches humility. It reminds you that you do not need to announce every step. You do not need to respond to every critic. You do not need to prove your worth to people. Allah already knows your worth. And when you work quietly, He will raise you when the time is right, in ways you could never imagine. Until then, be content in the silence. Let your actions speak. Let your character shine. Let your worship remain unseen. That is where the real strength lies. True growth does not announce itself. It does not shout from the rooftops. It does not seek likes, shares, or public approval. True growth happens quietly, in the private corners of your life where no one is watching but Allah. It happens in the early hours before dawn, when you wake up to pray, in the small acts of discipline you commit to every day, in the battles you fight within your heart that no one else even knows about. This kind of growth is the most valuable because it is sincere. It is not done to impress anyone, but to please your Creator and to become a better version of the soul He entrusted you with. We often underestimate the value of consistency in small deeds, especially when they are done in private. But in the eyes of Allah, those quiet, regular efforts are more beloved than big dramatic actions done for show. You may not see the results immediately. You may feel like your small steps are insignificant. But growth is not about speed, it is about direction. As long as you are moving toward Allah, even if you are crawling, you are growing. When your growth is private, there is no pressure to perform. You are not pretending to be better than you are. You are not hiding your flaws behind a perfect image. You are honest with yourself. And that honesty is where change begins. You acknowledge your shortcomings, you recognize the need to improve, and you do so quietly with sincerity and patience. That is real strength. The ones who grow the most are not always the loudest. They are not always on display. They are not constantly seeking attention. They are in the background, working on themselves, correcting their intentions, seeking forgiveness, building habits of prayer, fasting, reflection and service. They are planting seeds in their heart, and though others may not see the fruit, they know that Allah sees every seed. Sometimes people want their progress to be noticed. They want others to recognize the effort they are putting in. But that desire can dilute the sincerity of your growth. The moment you start doing things for the sake of being seen, you lose the sweetness of doing it for Allah. And eventually you may burn out because you were feeding off of external praise instead of internal purpose. That is why growing in private is such a blessing. It allows your intentions to remain pure. You are not performing, you are transforming. And that transformation is real because it is rooted in a sincere desire to change for the sake of Allah. You do not care who sees, you only care that He is pleased. Even in the lives of the righteous, we see this theme over and over. The best of them were not those who were the most visible or the most praised by the people. They were the ones who cried in the night while others slept. The ones who gave in charity so secretly that their left hand did not know what their right hand gave. The ones who fasted when no one knew. The ones who forgave others in their hearts without ever speaking a word of it. These are the quiet victories. These are the deeds that bring true barakah and nearness to Allah. It is also in private that you are tested the most. When no one is watching, will you still pray? Will you still lower your gaze? Will you still speak the truth? Will you still resist that temptation? These are the questions that define your character. Public righteousness is easy to fake. Private integrity is where your real strength is tested. And if you pass those tests in secret, know that Allah will reward you in ways you cannot imagine. So let your growth be quiet. Let it be for Allah. Let it happen in the unseen moments that carry the most weight in the sight of your Lord. Do not worry about who notices. Do not rush the process. Just keep showing up, keep working, keep striving, because Allah sees every step you take. He hears every dua you whisper. He knows every effort you make, and He never lets sincere effort go to waste. That is the beauty of private growth. It may be invisible to the world, but it is fully known to the one who matters most. And He is the one who can bring light to your heart, change to your life, and peace to your soul in ways that no human praise ever could. When you live your life constantly seeking the approval of people, you will never find peace. Their opinions will change, their praise will fade, and their expectations will drain you. But when your focus shifts to seeking the approval of Allah alone, everything changes. You no longer carry the heavy burden of impressing the world. You walk lighter with clarity and purpose. That is why seeking validation from people is one of the greatest distractions from your true path. Many people fall into this cycle without even realizing it. They begin to shape their behavior, speech, even their worship around what others will think. They dress a certain way, not because they believe it's right, but because they want to be accepted. They share their good deeds not to inspire, but to be admired. They speak in gatherings to be praised, not because they have something beneficial to say. Slowly, their actions become performances, and sincerity begins to slip away. This pursuit of human validation is exhausting, because no matter how much you do, someone will always criticize you, someone will misunderstand your intentions, someone will think you are not doing enough, and in trying to satisfy everyone, you end up pleasing no one and not even yourself. But when your standard becomes, is Allah pleased with me? Everything becomes simpler. You speak less, act more, and rely less on praise and more on divine acceptance. The one who seeks Allah's pleasure over people's approval is free, truly free, because he or she does not fear rejection from others, nor does praise inflate their ego. Their inner compass is steady. Their goal is clear. Even when no one sees the effort, even when their growth is unnoticed, they continue because they are not working for the people. They are working for the one who created the people. This mindset brings peace, Because when you are sincere, your actions gain weight. A small deed done for Allah is greater than a massive effort done for status or applause. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, reminded us that actions are judged by intentions. A person may perform an action that looks beautiful from the outside, but if their intention is corrupted, it may hold no weight in the hereafter. But another may do something small, in private, with a heart full of sincerity, and Allah elevates them because of it. Validation from people is temporary and shallow. You may do something right today and be praised, but the same people may criticize you tomorrow for the same action. Their love is not constant. Their opinion is not a reliable measure. And the more you depend on it, the more your self-worth will fluctuate. But the one who seeks Allah's pleasure finds stability. They know that if Allah accepts their effort, that is all that matters. And even if the world turns its back on them, they are content. This is especially important in our time where public image is everything. Social media has made it so easy to fall into the trap of doing things for attention. We see people posting their charity, their prayers, their kindness, all for the sake of being seen. But sincerity cannot live in a heart obsessed with visibility. You cannot serve two masters, the need to be praised by people and the need to be accepted by Allah. That is why the most powerful moments in your life will be the ones no one else knows about. The silent forgiveness you give to someone who wronged you, the private dua you make while weeping to Allah, the good deed you do with no camera, no witness, no post. These moments shape your soul. They protect your intention. They strengthen your relationship with your Lord. People's validation cannot help you on the day of judgment. No one's praise will benefit you when you stand alone before Allah. On that day, only sincerity will matter. Only your intention will speak. Only your truth will remain. So ask yourself now, am I living for people or am I living for the one who gave me life? When you train your heart to seek Allah's approval first, you begin to taste a different kind of peace. You no longer fear criticism because you know your worth is not tied to someone else's opinion. You no longer crave applause because your heart is already full with the satisfaction of pleasing your Creator. This is the strength of a believer. Quiet, steady, unwavering. So choose that path. Live sincerely, serve humbly, act privately, and trust that if no one else sees, Allah always sees. If no one else understands, He knows, and that is more than enough. Not everyone around you wants to see you win. Not everyone is happy for your growth, your peace, your progress, especially when it comes from a place of sincerity and obedience to Allah. There are people whose hearts are filled with envy, resentment, and insecurity. And when they see you rise quietly, become more disciplined, or distance yourself from worldly distractions, it unsettles them. Not because you have wronged them, but because your change reminds them of what they're not doing. It reflects something they don't want to face in themselves. This is why silence becomes your shield. When you move in silence, you don't expose your plans, your next step, your struggles, or even your victories. You protect yourself from unnecessary attention. You guard your peace from being disturbed. Because the evil eye is real, jealousy is real, and many times it comes from people who smile at you, follow your journey, or even claim to love you. But deep inside they are waiting for your fall, not your rise. When Allah blesses you with growth, whether spiritual, personal, emotional, or even material, it's not always meant to be shared publicly. There are certain blessings that flourish in privacy. They remain protected when you keep them between you and your Lord. Because the moment something pure becomes a public display, it invites opinions, scrutiny, and sometimes even harm. And it's not about being paranoid, it's about being wise. The believer does not expose everything. They walk with humility, speak with caution, and live with intention. Even in the Quran, when Yusuf, peace be upon him, had his dream of greatness, what did his father say? Do not relate your vision to your brothers, or they will contrive against you a plan. Indeed, Satan is to man a clear enemy. That advice didn't come from fear, it came from understanding human nature. Sometimes the danger is not outside your circle. Sometimes it's within. People you trust, people you eat with, people you grew up with, they may not handle your blessings well. But when you stay silent, you create a safe space for your growth. You allow Allah to continue working on you without interruption. You avoid arrogance and you stay focused. Because the more you talk, the more doors you open for interference through envy, through discouragement, or through the need to meet others' expectations. Silence keeps you grounded. It reminds you that your journey is not a performance, it's an act of worship. Some people will try to pull you back into your past. They will say, "You've changed," as if it's a crime. They'll remind you of who you used to be, not because they miss you, but because your transformation makes them uncomfortable. But growth requires separation, and silence gives you the space to grow without having to justify yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your self-improvement. Your responsibility is to your Lord. He sees the intention behind your silence, and He rewards it. It's important to understand that not every critic deserves your energy. Not every opinion is worth your response. Some people speak from their wounds, some speak from their jealousy, others from their own lack of understanding. If you let every voice affect you, you lose your direction. Thanks. Say Ameen.